Hey guys, welcome to the Canada Puck Podcast, your weekly recap of what's going on in the world of sports, specifically in hockey, and more specifically in Canada? But maybe we're not doing so much Canada today, so maybe I'm lying to you. I'm your co-host Mick. You can find me on Twitter at ProfitMick. It works this time. And I'm joined every episode by the big guy upstairs,
Grant, on Twitter at Fourth Line Sports. Can you believe, I don't even know why I'm so excited, but I have a feeling it has to do with the NHL playoffs starting today. The sun is bright. The playoffs are starting. It just feels like a fucking great day to be alive.
It is truly a great day to be alive. I had a story, but it's gone now. It wasn't a very good story, obviously. So I'm also excited. I was kind of not looking forward to this last little slate of Vancouver playing out their season for no reason over the next 4, 5, 6 days, and I was like, what a waste of our time. Like, why aren't they starting early? And then randomly I see the scores pop up and the playoffs started today. What a fun little accidental thing I found on the internet.
That is a good accident. We've all had bad accidents, but that's a good accident.
Which, not bad. Before we get into that, though, like we said off the top, we were debating how to run the format of the show. It's gonna be a little different. This is our playoff preview edition. We don't know what's going on. Blank slate, bam. We're going to run through those loser teams that didn't make the playoffs and then just kind of like put the regular season behind us. Don't worry about it for a while and get right into the meat and potatoes. So looking at the standings right now at the very bottom, the Vancouver Canucks are still creeping along. Games played, they've got 52. They've got 4 more games to play. Who cares?
What I would like to note is this is a celebration, Nick. Today is a celebration because this will be the last time that I talk about the Vancouver Canucks until September 2021. Like, if that's not a reason to go crush 6 or 7 morning beers, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Do they care? So I've got the standings right now of just the Scotia North, so we can kind of look at the loser teams. Let's do it better. Let's switch this over to the league and look at the bottom of the standings. Like, does that have any implications? Right now, the Canucks are 28th, so they are basically 4th from the bottom with 4 games to play. They could surpass, and they could jump to like 23. Do we care? Like, as an organization, don't you want to be the worst? Like, don't you just want to kind of, like, pull your goalie randomly in the first period on these games? Just mail it in. Who cares?
If this was ice hockey, they would definitely have to go with the 4 fatties formula so that you just get skated by and you can't really do anything. And, yeah, yank your goalie for fun. That should be the strategy the Vancouver Canucks employ.
Let's see. The Senators are next on the list. They're 23rd. From the bottom, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Calgary's in 10. There you go. We can work on that. So they're 9th overall right now, and they're not going to move. So and then that was kind of it. End of the season notes. Senators were kind of frisky towards the end. They've got kind of a bit of a bright future.
How high do we see them go early next season? Like, we've seen, what was it? They won 9 of their last 12, I believe, something along those lines. Go, like, what's the over-under for draft position for, like, Tim Stützle next year? Is he going before the 3rd round?
I think so. I think you have to give some of the credit to the Kachucks, the Norris, the Connor Browns, right? Like, they probably got some 4 top 100 players, right? In terms of fantasy production, right? So, I mean, they're not getting the back end stats. You're not taking their goalie at any point. Maybe as like a 3rd string or something, a bench goalie. But yeah, no, you're right. Those guys, I think, have shown that there is something there. And it's just like we've kind of talked about before. It's how does Peter Dorian build around them, right? It's kind of this is the initial piece. You've got that great foundation. What does the rest of the house look like? Or do they just park a nice trailer on top of this nice foundation that they got and just call it a day?
I would hope that they avoid the latter and go with the former, but you never know with Ottawa. I think one thing that I recognized about them, though, is like they are exciting. Like, I actually enjoyed watching the Ottawa Senators to end the season. They are going to open as like dark horse team to surprise a few teams next year, depending on realignment and that sort of thing. Are they a playoff team next year? We'll see. But we saw at the end of this year that they can compete with the league's best.
Yeah, and if they didn't have that rocky start, like Grant was saying, that kind of that last 10, 15 games, pretty good, right? If they were playing at that pace all season, they would have been in the talk for a playoff spot. So we'll kind of see where they go. Where's the sky's the limit, right? So, and then above them is the Calgary Flames, another crap team. So we really had kind of a reverse shit sandwich on that one. So piece of poop, something good, no, a piece of poop. So the Flames, 10. They got 3 games left. I'm guessing most of those are against the Vancouver Canucks. So it sounds exciting. And if they, let's say they won the next 3 games, they could move up to just above the Blackhawks. So do you really want to do that? I mean, that's 2 spots. They can move up to 12th.
But I think that takes them out of an interesting position because I think only if they're not top 10, sorry, there's 31 teams. I thought maybe for a second if they finished in that 10th spot, they would have the ability to win the draft because only the top 10 teams can win the draft. Mm. So if there's a possibility, perhaps if Vancouver can surpass them in the standings, if I'm the Flames, I sure as hell am not doing anything over these last 3 games. But I don't think it's possible. I think that...
No, it's possible. So Vancouver's got 8 games left, or like 8 potential points. They've got 45, so that would get them up to 53, so they could push them. So assuming they didn't win any games, they would kind of get pushed down. So they could go like 1-2 and stay in as a bottom 10 team. Wow, what a great way to start a podcast, eh? Like, hey, they could be a bottom 10 team. Great.
Talking about all the shitty ways a shitty team can get a good draft pick.
Ugh, yeah. What a just... Ugh. I mean,
this is why, like, before we start rolling, it's like, we got to do this first, because I'm not going to want to talk about the shitty teams after we start talking about playoff teams. And I'm glad we did it this way, because there's no way I would get excited about talking to Calgary Flames potentially getting a top 10 draft pick.
Well, so just based on that note, they released the Team Canada roster for, like, the World Cup or whatever they call it, World Championships. A little lackluster, not a lot of star power going overseas to compete. The number 1 draft pick, Owen Powers. That last name better be Powers, because Power just sounds weird. It was ranked as like one of the top like 4 D-men on this squad. Just looking at the bottom of the teams here, like Buffalo, Anaheim, New Jersey. Does any of those teams getting a really good defenseman at this point push the needle in any direction? Because I don't think it does. Like, do the Buffalo Sabres need another number 1 defenseman on their squad? Like, is that going to help them get somewhere? I don't think so.
The Buffalo Sabres need a lot of help, and I would say that defensively is not one of them.
Yeah.
They just, like, what a shit organization. How many good defensemen have they ruined already? And this has come from an Oilers fan, so Sabres fans, please take this to heart. You have ruined enough defensive prospects. Who was it? Ristolainen? I think Ristolainen was on the record of saying he wanted out of Buffalo the other day.
Yeah. Well,
Jack Eichel has never been happy in Buffalo. Taylor Hall, D-bag Taylor Hall didn't even like Buffalo, so...
I mean, that is, I guess, a whole other can of worms. Maybe you just take the top talent available and hope he turns into something, but, like, all these teams already have that. Like, the Ducks, they've got the Cam Fowlers, you got Quinn Hughes with the Canucks, so, like, bringing in that other top defensive player, the Seth Jones in Columbus, I don't know. I think it might just be a bad... Maybe a team trades down this year.
We don't get a lot of hockey trades into the top 3. In the NFL, it always happens. Like, every year, a team gives up a surplus of draft capital to move into the top 3. I can only think of that happening a handful of times in hockey.
Yeah. It'll probably be like Steve Yzerman. Steve Yzerman will randomly move up from, like, 5th to 1st or something like that, and then, like, get another 1st in the deal or something like that. And you're like, Buffalo, what are you doing? Like, I just can't say no to Steve Yzerman, so...
Just got such soft eyes.
There you go. So like there we ended at that weird shit like parfait that we're eating. We ended with like a good thing on the bottom. So you're like, oh, gummy bears, that's fun.
So Steve Yzerman is the gummy bear to our shit parfait analogy.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works. Let's roll into actual playoffs. Now we don't have to talk about that awfulness anymore. That stupid awfulness. Just roll through the series. Going down. God. I got the let's just do it, I guess. little bit of old school. Go to the Honda West Division. We got 2 playoff series in the Honda West. We've got the St. Louis Blues to the underdog to the President's Trophy winning Colorado Avalanche and all the power that is. And then we've got, like Grant has mentioned in the past, the regression candidate Minnesota Wild versus the always powerful Vegas Knights.
Yeah, what a bunch of shit this is going to be. I guess I'm glad we're getting more of the shittiness over with early in the playoff discussion. But 2 of the steepest favorites on the board. Last time I looked, I think the Avs were minus 360-ish to beat the St. Louis Blues. Vegas slightly below that. I want to say they were like minus 260, minus 280 to beat the Wild. I don't see either of these matchups ending in an upset. And it's so hard. Like, maybe we've seen St. Louis catch lightning in a bottle. Maybe, like, I would give it maybe a 20% chance that happens against the Avs. But even that, you would still want to bet the, implied probability-wise, you're still going to back the Avs in that one. So I would just say, based off odds as they are, I don't really have a play in either one of these series because I think that for, like, very matter-of-factly, the Avs and the Golden Knights move on to the next round. More importantly, I think that's what we deserve. Like, a 7-game series between the Avs and Golden Knights. The Avs tied the Golden Knights with 82 points in the regular season. Vegas had more wins, but Colorado had the 1 seed. Teams in the playoffs when we get, like, the well-seasoned Vegas Golden Knights versus kind of the young up-and-coming Colorado Avalanche. This would be the 7-game series that would live with us in our memories for like years while we revisit the glory of the 7-game series between Colorado and Vegas. I really hope it happens. Wild, big-time regression candidates. You're already seeing that. They've kind of fallen down flat on their face to end the season. They blew a 3-goal lead in St. Louis in the last game of the season. Like, fuck you guys. Like, I had money on actually, it was an overtime bet. I had money on overtime there. I thought, yeah, this is, a quick lead. Team comes back, and then they just absolutely blew it. So, little PO'd at the Minnesota Wild. But nonetheless, I don't think that they're going to recover in time to really even compete with the Golden Knights in this series.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be, if you look at just the odds overall for, like, the Stanley Cup for just the futures, the top 2 teams right now, which is very weird, and I don't know if it's actually worth betting money on, but with Colorado and Vegas both being kind of those, like, top, basically the best odds, it kind of seems like fool's gold at some point. Like, kind of seems like one of them might leave or something like that, so, or not leave, but one of them has to lose to the other, right? So, Grant, did we lose you?
I'm still here. I'm still clicking on my camera button, thinking, what the hell's going on here?
Okay, all right. Well, as long as we can still hear your beautiful voice, then we're good. NHL, Stanley Cup odds, Stanley Cup odds. So you said you're staying away from both these series, if you can.
Like, I think part of my strategy might be, like, maybe a cheeky little parlay with the Avs and Golden Knights, but I really don't see value in either one of the lines. Like, if I had to say, here, Grant, bet all your money on one of these series, I would absolutely take the favorites. It just seems like,
championship, like the Olympics,
the return isn't really worth the investment.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And actually, that's something we can talk about at this point. So, are you maybe you just can just say straight up, I am not a fan of, say, futures bets, like series bets. Do you have an opinion on that one way or the other? If I was to ask you about, like, if I'm going to bet a series, give me your advice. Should I take the Bruins right now? Are minus 150 against the Capitals. Is it worth me investing, say, $100 on the Bruins to win that series if I think they're going to win?
That's a kind of a loaded question, because if you do think that they're going to win, then, hypothetically, you should always bet the money. But I kind of come from a more conservative background where even if you think it's going to happen, you still want to have, like, a perceived edge. And that is minus 150. What kind of implied probability is that? Let me just do some quick math here. I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't. So minus 150 comes with a 60% implied probability. So, like, I backed the Bruins on the series line at minus 138. At 60%, that gives, like, at minus 150, that is an implied probability of saying, here, the Bruins have a 60% chance of winning this series. And when you say, oh, yeah, they're going to win this series, it's more of kind of coin flip odds. So, like, I don't know. The way that works in my head, I would say that I wouldn't confidently enter the market if you just think that they probably are going to win. If you have a perceived edge, and that is, hey, I've done, when I go through this in my head or I go through my calculations, I see the Bruins actually have a 61% chance of winning. Then you have that 1% edge where you could say, all right, here, I actually have a perceived advantage where I can confidently enter the market in.
Cool. All right. Yeah, because I was kind of looking at it. I was just doing some rough math yesterday, and I was at that point. If you think the Bruins are going to win, or that's my pick, I'm going to put $100 on the Bruins to win at 150. Why wouldn't I just take that money? And it's more exciting if I just split it up over the first 3 games, for example. So I take 30%, so $30, put them on the Bruins to win the first 3 games. If that's the case, after 3, if it's 3-0. Like victory or advantage for the Bruins, I've made actually $3 more. Just quick rough math on myself. I've made actually an extra $3 than if I would have just taken them in total. And actually, so in theory, I'm up $3. I don't really care what happens the rest of the series.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of arbitrage too. I don't really know, and by that I mean you can even get like value in betting different outcomes on different lines or on different sites, or you can play the hedging game in a live series as well. So I think the disadvantage to arbitrage these days is that everybody kind of just follows each other's lines, and there's not really any unique bookmaking, at least that I see. Like everything's pretty much standard. This is the line here, and you're not going to see it like plus or minus on either side anywhere across the internet. But I do especially, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs and Montreal Canadiens. I do like your strategy. I think that there's some value to that. Why not just guarantee yourself 6, 7, 10% in a series and enjoy watching the games if you can play that game? And I think with some of these lines, there is an opportunity to do that this postseason.
Great, cool. So, Grant, not a huge fan, but maybe if you like Vegas over the Wild, you'll hold on to that as part of a parlay later in the podcast. Noted. Done. Let's roll on to the Discover Central. So we got 2 bangers of series here. We got the Carolina Hurricanes over the lowly little Nashville Predators, who barely scraped into the playoffs. And why isn't this? I'm on Odd Shark right now. Video people can see. Grant cannot. So I do not see. Oh, there's the Tampa Bay, Florida line. So as we're seeing, Carolina minus 235, and then Tampa Bay is minus 140. So how are we feeling about some Discover Central series?
I have a very, I don't know, maybe it's unpopular opinion on the Tampa Bay, Florida series, and that is I think Florida gets the better of the Tampa Bay Lightning in the opening round. What we haven't seen from Tampa this season is consistent, healthy output game in and game out. And that's kind of the exact opposite of what we've gotten from Florida. And that is game in and game out, we get the same effort. And that is they're a strong defensive team that is so hard to beat on home ice. And I think that when push comes to shove, home ice advantage is going to be so much more valuable in this series than other series because Florida is just that much better on home ice. So Stamkos was injured down the line. Kucherov didn't play. Hedman's been injured. I think Barclay Goodrow's injured. Say Victor?
The man, the myth, the legend himself, Barclay Goodrow.
Yeah, so when we weigh all of this goofiness, it's just I don't see how. And I think maybe part of the Tampa's issues are compounded by a shitty schedule. They played until basically October, then you have 2 months off, then you're back at it. Now you're playing a 56-game schedule and over whatever this 119 days you had to play them. So for that, and I just don't think we saw in the last 2 games of the regular season what Florida can do to neutralize Tampa on home ice. Yep. You're gonna get that exponentially in the playoffs now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, people act like the Tampa Bay Lightning winning the bubble Stanley Cup last year was just how Tampa Bay has operated for the last decade, right? They're like, oh, this team is, like they're the Stanley Cup. This is who you want to be. This is the Stanley Cup champions. They've had some stumbles in the past, right? Like they've been they built up to that cup over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, right? Depending how far back you look. And they've had some misery in there too. So it's not like they were definitively the greatest team. They happened to be really good last year. So, I don't know. Stanley Cup hangover? Kucherov coming back. Kucherov hasn't played all year. So now Kucherov's going to come back and be, say, Kucherov from last year's playoffs this year. I don't think that's how it works coming back from hip surgery. So, I'm with Grant. I like that. And then are you kind of under the opinion that the Carolina Hurricanes are playing a really good brand of hockey? The Nashville Predators just don't have the dogs in the race, and it's probably going to be Hurricanes there too?
Yeah, so I was kind of choosy with my underdogs in the first round. I think I have 3, but the Nashville Predators are not one of them. I don't see how they can compete. And what Carolina does better than anybody is they just they force you to play their game. Yeah. And that is so far out of the Predators' comfort zone that they can't the Predators get by on 3-2, 2-1, 2-0 victories. Carolina's going to beat you with 6-4, 5-2 type outings. So I don't see how they keep up offensively, and that is going to cost the Predators sooner rather than later. I don't think that this UC Saros, I'll give him the benefit of the Canes in 5 games.
Canes in 5 games. Look at that. He's giving us predictions. Wow. Huh. And then what's the other guy? Mass Mutual East. This is kind of a fun division. Of all the realignments outside of Scotia North, I kind of like this one the most. I kind of feel like there's the most, I don't know, just interesting teams, interesting narratives coming out of this squad. So we start with the Boston Bruins and the Washington Capitals. We see the Capitals are plus 130 underdogs. And if I scroll around on my Bodog page, because it's laid out super nicely, we see that the New York Islanders are plus 125 underdogs against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Do you care which one we start with?
No. Dealer's choice. I want to hear your opinion on one of these series. Which one are you most confident in choosing the winner on?
I don't know if I am super confident on any of these. I have a play on the Boston Bruins at minus 150 that I just want to try for our Bettor Advice segment. I've came up with a weird little formula. I'm going to talk you through it. I don't know if it makes sense, but we're going to try it out. This is going to see what happens. But it's interesting to me that if we look at the standings here, the Bruins are third with 4 points behind the Washington Capitals, and people are talking about the Washington Capitals being this old squad that's kind of ready to hang up the skates. They're just not the same as they used to be, and the Boston Bruins are going to kind of come in and just plow them out of and I just don't understand where that narrative is coming from. So it's kind of I'm more interested to watch this series just to see if that's the case. Did the Washington Capitals age really rapidly in this last week, and the Boston Bruins got this injection in the fountain of youth? Because in my mind, both of these are kind of older squads at the tail end of their core's run, just scrapping it out.
I would say the biggest difference for me in this series is goaltending. So the Capitals obviously moved on from Braden Holtby last year, thinking that Ilya Samsonov was the guy. Samsonov hasn't been the guy, and not only that, but he has COVID, so he's not even playing, or probably won't play at least for most of the series if he's eventually cleared. That leaves them with Vitek Vanacek, basically as their starting goaltender. If I told you Vitek Vanacek was going to be solely responsible for moving the Capitals onto the second round of the playoffs, and I think that to defeat the Bruins, goaltending is going to have to be a big part of this, you would probably have me burned at the stake. At least I hope, as a good friend, you would have burned me at the stake.
I tell you to shut your dirty whore mouth.
See? And that's the type of friendship that I expect from you.
Yeah.
But Tuukka Rask is on another level compared to the Capitals. And even without Rask last year, we saw how good the Bruins could be in the postseason. I don't see how... this line moved in favor of the Bruins big time. Like I said, this opened in minus 135 territory. obviously up to minus 154 now at the line or book that I'm looking at. So people believe in the Boston Bruins, and I think rightfully so. The Caps, again, dealing with injuries. John Carlson, Nicholas Backstrom, Alex Ovechkin, they all missed time towards the end of the season with various injuries. The Bruins have been just absolute dynamite all year. They've got their expected goals for percentages in their last 6 games were all above 60%. That might be way off, but I'm just rattling off the top of my head what I think I saw. But nevertheless, a competitive advanced metric team that has not only a big advantage with I would say scoring depth and being able to roll 4 lines, but the biggest difference being goaltending. And Tuukka Rask is a much better goalie than Vitek Vanacek is.
Yes. I don't know anything about Vitek Vanacek, but I agree. I agree. So that leaves us with the next series, the New York Islanders versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. Penguins.
I've taken a stance in this series as well. Who do you like?
Who do I like? Again, this is really difficult for me playing this game because I was in on the Scotia North. I followed the Scotia North. I knew what was going on in the Scotia North. Other divisions, not so much. Really, outside of this, randomly on this podcast, we talk about it kind of on Saturday morning or something like that. We'd roll through the standings. So my opinion on these are very, very light. But I think historically we've seen the success Barry Trotz has had in the postseason. We've kind of seen the success that this younger Islanders team is coming from. You're probably getting a little bit better quality goaltending again from the Islanders' point of view. They play kind of more of a defensive, grinded out style. I don't know if I believe in the Penguins. I don't care how many points Jeff Carter gets, who apparently plays for the Penguins, who I completely forgot about until the other day when I saw him on the score sheet. And I was like, oh, there you go.
Yeah, one of those deadline acquisitions that the Penguins just seem to nail. It doesn't matter. They always find this scoring winger that just helps them in the postseason. Yeah. So I am of the same opinion of you that the Islanders are the better defensive team and that Barry Trotz has a good playoff acumen. But both of these teams, when I look at this from a metrics perspective, both of these teams have overachieved. That is, Penguins and Islanders are both operating with PDOs above hypothetical average. They're both achieving above their expected goals for percentages. So that kind of puts me in this position where I'm like, both teams are overachieving. So we can't really, neither position's in a better, from an advanced metrics perspective. I think that this one goes the full 7. I don't see how this one ends in anything less than 7.
Yeah.
And it has all the makings of a classic Game 7 overtime series. And I would say that with that in mind, if it comes to Game 7, I'm taking the Pittsburgh Penguins over the Islanders. Barry Trotz, God bless his defensive system, is a huge part of this. But when it comes down to clutch moments, the Penguins have been there before, and the Islanders don't have a great track record of overcoming adversity in the playoffs. I know that they did well last season, but they don't they're missing the clutch gene, I guess, and that's something that Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin have. So my play on this one was the 7 games, so series total games. I took 7 games at plus 200. Perfect. I just feel that's the play to make in this one. You can probably, if you want to take a stance, I would say now's the time to take a stance on the Islanders, and you can hedge at plus money on the Penguins after they split the first 2 games of the series. But 7 games. This one's going 7 games.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Islanders in the last week, they did lose to the Sabres twice, gave up the first game to New Jersey, and barely scraped by and beat the New Jersey Devils on the 4th. So that's not a great 4-game stretch as you're kind of going down the line. And we see that they do struggle a little bit to generate some offense. So unless they can completely just shut down the Penguins and just keep them off the score sheet. But Brandon Rust, that guy's up for 7 goals in that series probably alone.
If Brandon Rust gets 7 goals in this series, I will buy you a Brandon Rust jersey.
Cool.
And home or away, whatever the new cool ones are, it's yours.
Done. I just got to figure out what team he plays for, and I'll place that order. So, and then that leaves us with what everyone came for. Well, we're all talking about. Again, I don't know if there's the Island. No, what's Oilers? There's Oilers. Scotia North playoffs. Super exciting. Doesn't start for a couple days. I think it starts on Wednesday or something like that this week. So just a slight delay on the start time on these guys. But we get a banger. And I'm talking about the Prairie Provinces going at it. The Edmonton, the Winnipeg Jets. You can only hope to contain... Yeah.
Prairie Banger sounds like some cool new sax move I've never heard of.
The Prairie Banger. That's what we're going to call this series. The Prairie Bangers.
All right. Well, now we've got to put on our creative hats and figure out exactly what this new move is. But that's a problem for another day. What we can focus on in this moment is, who do you like in Edmonton, Winnipeg?
I think we've seen a man possessed. We've seen the best player in hockey right now. Hands down. Just give him the trophy. There is no competition. There is no one else up for the Hart, the MVP of the league in Connor McDavid. And I think he keeps that magic just flowing right now. He's playing on a different level. The speed, the size, the skill that he brings to the ice. And we're not seeing great hockey right now from, I think, the Winnipeg Jets' best weapon with the Connor Hellebuck. So with that being said, I believe Connor McDavid puts more goals past Hellebuck than the Winnipeg Jets put past whoever's on the other side. Call it Mike Smith. And we're getting an Edmonton Oilers win.
You know exactly how to just make me feel good about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Connor McDavid, 22 points in 9 games. With Vancouver if he plays it this afternoon. But nevertheless, limiting Connor McDavid is obviously the biggest thing, and the Ottawa or the Winnipeg Jets can't even limit the Ottawa Senators right now.
Yep.
And they weren't able to limit basically any team, and they posted some of the worst defensive metrics in the league. That makes it almost impossible for them to get past the Edmonton Oilers. Like, even Connor McDavid notwithstanding, even trying to limit some of the, like, even Draisaitl, if we're talking about Draisaitl, Cahoon, and Nugent Hopkins or whoever ends up skating with them, if they split up McDavid and Draisaitl, like, they won't even be able to limit that line. They're just so porous defensively, and that's the last quality you want to have when you're going into a playoff matchup. Like the old adage goes, defense wins championships. Well, the Winnipeg Jets are going to learn the hard way that Tucker Poolman is not the defensive guy to lead you to postseason glory.
And this almost feels like the most, like, vindicating of series for this show. So early in the postseason, we pulled up the roster and we laughed that Josh Morrissey is your number 1 defenseman and Tucker Poolman is second on your depth chart. We kind of just, like, hammered that point home throughout the season. And again, I think this is going to be one of those things where, like, we told you so, essentially. You're not going to be able to stop Connor McDavid. Bless your little hearts, Winnipeg, but I just don't think you have it right. Now, we did talk about, I'm not thinking it's going to be a sweep. It might be closer than we look. Hellebuck is maybe one of the best goalies in the world, so could he steal a game or two? Yes, but unfortunately he also can't score. And there's just something off. Like, unless, like, Pierre-Luc Dubois has some type of weird extra gear that he's going to hit, Mark Scheifele all of a sudden shows off that he is the Connor McDavid of the playoffs. I don't know. I don't buy it, so we'll see. So good job, Edmonton.
All right. So on your website, and that is the website, the sportsbook that we are sharing with our viewers.
Yep.
Do we have a correct score handicap? So that is, like, how long?
No, this is like the most rudimentary oddsharks.com. I've got a little thing where it's like the series and it just shows the prices. So.
All right. So I have this rattled off here. I'll rattle this off here for you. Edmonton 4-0 plus 800. Edmonton 4-1 plus 430. Edmonton 4-2 plus 370. Edmonton 4-3 plus 440. Which one do you like the best?
I like Edmonton. I like the Oilers in 6. I think that's kind of sounds about right. I think they're going to have a little bit of a stumble. I don't think this Edmonton Oilers squad is infallible. Right, like, they can definitely get the best of it if McDavid has just that little bit, like, gives only like 95%, not that 100% in one of those games. I think the Jets take it. That probably happens maybe twice over the course. Maybe they have a hard time kind of putting the nail in the coffin. I think in 6 games for that plus 3 something, whatever you said. I like that money.
Plus 370, yeah, that seems to be the betting favorite. I'm just struggling with that for some reason. I'm having a hard time seeing them winning in Winnipeg in Game 6. So to me, naturally, I'm like, well, maybe Game 5 makes sense. That's kind of, I would say, the best value, plus 430. I don't know. I'm not taking a stance on either, at least not without looking into it a little bit more closely. I do like Edmonton's chances. I don't think that it goes the full 7, so that leaves you at some games. Hypothetically, you could bet all 3, 4-0, 4-1, 4-2, and still walk away with money.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if I had to put my stake on it, I just whatever my bet is times 2, I'll take 5 and 6, hedge it. I don't think we're going to see a sweep. I don't think we're going to see 7, so go from there.
Cool. Well, we'll see. We'll see how this one plays out. But Connor Hellebuck trending in the wrong direction. Edmonton Oilers off.
Yeah. So, cream of the crop. Too sweet to be sour. All that's left is... This might be one of the greatest playoff series we'll ever see. The Montreal Canadiens versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hasn't happened since, like 650-something? Years in the making. I think it's going to be fun. 2 bitter rivals going at it in the first round. Yeah.
You're using a lot of good adjectives. Is that too sweet to be sour a real saying, or is that a Mickism? I don't think I've heard that one before.
Too sweet to be sour. I have no idea.
Did you just say that?
Yeah. I just don't know where it came from. It's just in my head, so...
All right, cool. Well, I might borrow that one. I see this one. Toronto Maple Leafs are steep favorites. What are you showing the viewers on this one? What's the line that we're...
Minus 300 favorites to win this series. So
I'm looking at minus 310. That leaves the Habs with plus 240. We all know what to expect from Carey Price if he is healthy in the postseason. We saw what they did to Pittsburgh Penguins in the opening round last year. We've seen in years past his 930-something save percentages, his tournament play. Plus 240 is a steep price, especially when we consider Toronto's bad road metrics to end the season. That is, they've been outplayed in 4 of their last 7. They've lost 3 straight on the road in 6 of 9. Scoring is down. Can they, under those circumstances, take all 3 games in Montreal, or take one of 3 games in Montreal? In Toronto.
Am I going to make a stance? Do I have a pick? I think that, it really boils down to kind of that back end veteran leadership that you're bringing in, the Thorntons, the Simmons, the kind of the Spetzas. How do those guys kind of steady the ship, keep everyone kind of pointed in the right direction? If they can kind of keep, everyone in that direct course, everyone's kind of clipping at the right time, you get just even above average. I'm not saying great goaltending from the Campbells of the world. It could be a shorter series, right? It could be a bit of a domination. I do think Montreal is not just going to be a flop like we saw from that Wednesday. Did they lose in Wednesday? No. When was the last time the Montreal this last game that just happened this last week? We saw that Montreal, there are kind of another gear that they can step up. They can play. I think they're going to be, I don't know, again, maybe 5 or 6. If we could look at that, those series prices, I do think we're going to see probably the Leafs win. I don't think it's going to be just a one-sided affair where they sweep them and then kind of sit around, wait for the next guys to show up. So we're probably going to see. I think I have 6 games was my prediction. So Leafs in 6.
Leafs in 6. So based off what I'm looking at, that would give you plus 340 odds. I believe in the Montreal Canadiens in this one, and that is my hard-on for Carey Price is showing once again. I just know that Toronto, so five straight playoffs they have lost in the opening round. That's not to say 5 consecutive years, but over their last 5 playoff appearances, they've failed to leave the first round, and that includes last year's 5-game series against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and whatever you want to call that opening round series. This is a team that you're expecting, we were expecting this team to learn this lesson back in 2013 when they lost to Boston after blowing the 3-goal lead and with 8 minutes to go. They haven't learned this lesson yet. They haven't learned how to get out of opening round. And I know that it hasn't always been Matthews, Marner, and whoever else they have, but this is a team like Joe Thornton. I fucking love Jumbo Joe, but this guy also hasn't learned how to win a playoff series. They have, and like my biggest apprehension is that there's no clear answer in net, and that is, are we expecting? It looks like they're posturing to kind of make it look like Frederik Andersen's getting starts because they reacclimated at a level. He's responded poorly. He's lost both games. Save percentage below 90% this season, worst of his career. His advanced metrics all have him pointed in kind of this down. $32-ish, depending on circumstances. I just don't believe in the Toronto Maple Leafs, and at minus 310, I sure as fucking I'm not betting on them. And I took the Habs at plus 230. Bothers me that they moved up since then, but if nothing else, this is a plus money hedging opportunity where I expect this price to go down substantially. Montreal, if Carey Price is healthy, he steals a game, one of the first 2 games. Montreal wins game 3. Guess what? That's like you're looking at a good hedging opportunity if that's the case. So I took a stance with the Canadians. I'm thinking very hard. Like it's taking all my energy not to bet a substantial amount on them to win in 7 at plus 750. But after a few beers, you know what happens, and that is all my best decisions happen. So, you know what? That might be coming later today.
Sweet, yo. Yeah, the one kind of caveat to all that whole thing is there is a back-to-back in this series, that game 3-4 in Montreal. They play kind of in consecutive days. So more than likely you're going to see some type of goalie swap, right? So if the Campbell of the world starts out hot, wins a couple games for you, you are going to see Frederik Andersen, and you are going to see Jake Allen more than likely probably in that game, assuming it's not an elimination game, right? And then Carey Price, depending where his conditioning's at this point, might need that little bit of a break. So maybe almost a wait and see approach in the series, see how the kind of series plays out, and then kind of like there's money to be made potentially on that game 4, just based on what the public is seeing versus kind of like what we see on the back end, knowing that there's going to be a swap in goalies or something like that, right? So
you remember the I know you remember this, but you remember the Raptors series? I think it was against the Bucks in the Eastern Conference. Where the Raps came back, and it was this clutch performance, and they went on to win 4 straight.
Yeah.
I just kind of get that funny feeling here too. Like, could we see a big momentum shifting performance in game 3? And then back to back. Thank you for pointing that out. I had no idea. That seems a little fucky for playoff scheduling, but back to back in Montreal, like, to me, I don't know if the league, maybe this is me and my tinfoil hat again, but that sounds kind of like conspiracy theory worthy. Like, why would you put Toronto in that position where they have to play back to back in Montreal? It just
basically it comes down to just the way the North, because they are rolling out games a little bit later than everyone else. Like, there's still regular season games going on. Not that they're of consequence, but that's the reason that they kind of got pushed back, and they basically had to squish the Scotia North's first round of the playoffs kind of together just to keep up with everyone else. So.
And that makes no sense to me. I see your point. It's a valid point, but it just makes no sense to me, because if they wanted to, they could start Toronto Montreal today. There's nothing stopping these 56 game teams from playing today. This is just like one of those, like, maybe I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going full tinfoil hat here. They start this series late to give Carey Price a little bit of extra time to rest, rehabilitate. Then they force the Leafs to play a back-to-back in Montreal. This has all the makings of Gary Bettman's little fingerprints all over it to make sure that this is a more competitive series than people are expecting it to be.
Yeah, no, I can see that for sure. And that's why I said, with this approach, like, unless you have a gun to your head and you're forced to pick someone, maybe wait and see what those first 3 games look like, right? Because, I mean, again, we could see a momentum switch. We could see, I don't know, fuckiness. Fuckiness could be on the horizon, guys. So
the wait and see approach, what I would say is take the Habs now, because this price isn't getting in. I don't think that this Habs Well, you know what? No, you know what? I'm going to go with you. Let's take the wait and see approach. If they lose game one, then this line is shifting even further in favor of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So you're right. Maybe it is best to wait and see. But if the Habs steal the first one in Toronto.
Oh, I also roll on a gambling theory that there is a big Leafs fan market that likes to put money on this. So in theory, you're always going to see some type of favoritism, right? So, I mean, again, we're going to see a little bit of a shift. But, I mean, if it's like 2-1 Montreal going into game 4, there still might be plus money left with the Canadians that you can jump into, even though you're at a clear advantage at that point, and just take advantage of the stupid Leafs fans. So,
yep.
I've kept my bankroll alive several times while my heart's being broken, based using that assumption. So learn it from me.
You're such a gentleman, Mick. Just educating the people of the world, taking those hard lessons. Good for you.
That's how I do. So, we shall see. It'll be an interesting one, especially again as it kind of dives into it. I'm ready to get my heart broken. I'm just gonna throw that out there, universe. You know, I'm ready for it. It sounds good. You know. If you're being very candid right now, I'm going to be very candid about something I've recognized too. Like, I have this weird fucky thing in my head about sixes. So that is, I feel like trends reset at 6 for some reason. It's something that I've kind of recognized over the course of many years of being brokenhearted, similar to you. And for me, like, when I see the Hat or the Leafs, 5 consecutive first round exits, this like stupid little complex in the back of my head is like, rule of sixes is like they're gonna miss out the 6 and then it's gonna reset and then we're gonna see some progress. So I don't know, that's one of the tripping points for me personally. Yeah, and I mean also it's nice to have that kind of, if you get that big plus money early on, you don't have to bet as much to win more. So theory doesn't hurt the bankroll. So, but that is gambling 101. On to, I didn't do a FanDuel. I could throw a FanDuel together while Grant discusses what's going on there.
You want to rattle through last week? Did you do all right last week?
I could do that, actually. If I go FanDuel. Click. Yeah, I'll tell you about my adventures in gambling last week. Because I did pretty well. So, good job, me. History. Just don't notice these NBA ones that I did, like, absolutely horrendous. And I found some, they were like NBA Top Shot free pools that I entered or something like that. I got toasted. One of mine, I put up like 250 points. You're like, oh, that's pretty good. No, the guy one had like 4 something. And I was like, son of a gun. So I'd like to point this out here. There's 10 people. These are just the top 10. Was it only 10 people? 29 people. So out of 30 people, I got third.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So top prize was $10, and I was sitting in first place for like the longest time, and it was up until I think these two guys had like Fleury in net or something like that, and Vegas was going to win and potentially post a shutout, so that's kind of why they jumped over me. But I ended up in third place. Look at this fun squad. I got Connor McDavid, who went off, got his 4 points, like Grant said in the last podcast, so good job, Grant. John Tavares did all right for me. Huberdeau, killed it with Brock Nelson. People, you were laughing at me, internet. Everyone laughed and said, what kind of an idiot puts Brock Nelson in? Well, his 2 goals, 3 shot, 29.3 point performance. I think with Jordan Eberle. Good job, buddy. They kept me afloat. That was kind of it. Everything else was just kind of that. But when you're getting like 50 points from Brock Nelson and Jordan Eberle, that's how you win some money. So good job, me.
That is an outstanding performance. I will rattle off through mine, and then I'm going to let our lovely listeners know who I have in today's lineup, so that affords you a little bit of time to set your own. I also had Connor McDavid. It fucking, again, warms my heart to hear that you took my advice on that one. 4 points, 1 goal, 4 shots, 3 assists, 3 blocks for 48.2 points. For some reason, my strategy did not pay off this week. Let me just preface this. Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner both kind of let me down. They both found their way onto the score sheet, but they put up a combined 31 points, just over 31 points. They didn't even surpass Connor Brown. And I said Connor Brown was going to assists, 2 shots, 31.7 fantasy points. 0.8% of people drafted Connor Brown last week to their own fault. Ottawa, they were playing great to end the season. Their season's over. No more. We can't get sneaky good with any of our Sens players moving forward. Defensively, my strategy did not pay off. Mackenzie Weegar, Damon Severson combined for 12.8 points. Not good. Nazem Kadri, Frank Vetrano, kind of got those gritty performances that we were expecting from them. Vetrano did end up on the score sheet, contributed 12.8 points. Nazem Kadri did not. 4 shots, 1 block for 8 FanDuel fantasy points. My undoing was Mackenzie Blackwood, and that is I was sitting in the money through most of the slate, but once the goalies on the late slate got their victories, that kind of pushed me out. I finished with 142.3 points. Mackenzie Blackwood's minus 2.4 points, and that is 22 saves on 5 goals against, did me absolutely no favors. So that didn't knock me off of my pedestal of going dumpster diving for goaltenders, because I have once again chosen the most inexpensive goalie on the DFS slate today, going with Thatcher Demko in Edmonton. I don't know what we're going to what to expect from Edmonton, but from what I've seen from other teams kind of in similar positions, and that is nothing left to play for. We saw it with Boston. We saw it with Toronto. We're going to see it with Edmonton, and that is limited ice time performance from their starters. In Boston's case, they just flat out didn't play them. I don't know how much ice time McDavid's getting, but I will let you know that this is the first Saturday, I think, of the season where he is went with the cap stack, thinking that Mikko Koskinen is going to be the sieve that we've come to expect him from. Over his last 3 games, Koskinen is stopping 81.8% of shots. I think that's going to lead to a lot of goals, and this is maybe foreshadowing for our next segment here. But they are Vancouver forwards that I have taken are JT Miller and Brock Boeser. I've paired them with Quinn Hughes on the back end, thinking that this is a good spot for Quinn Hughes to kind of light the Oilers on fire. I've kind of taken a stack with the Washington Capitals as well. That is, I've taken Nicholas Backstrom, TJ Oshie. TJ Oshie, 16 points in his last 15 games played. When I think of playoff performances, I think of TJ Oshie. I think he comes up big today. I've got, Oshie, Backstrom with Lars Eller and John Carlson. Eller's sneaky good, and he gets a lot done, and that is block shots. He can score. He gets assists, primary assists. So I think Eller's going to be another one of those clutch playoff performances. Again, I splurged on defenseman first time in my DFS history. So John Carlson, don't let me down. That leaves me with, I believe, only one player. I took Jesse Puljujarvi. So that is, I don't know how much time Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins are going to get today, but I don't think that Puljujarvi is going to be as limited as the rest of them, and that is that they're going to want to keep this kid moving. He's less, like, if I'm thinking about Oilers that absolutely cannot get injured, sorry, Jesse Puljujarvi, you're not on the list. Like, the replaceable commodity, I think that leads to more ice time. Like I said, high-scoring affair. Had to have at least one Oiler, so I took him.
Yeah, I just kind of did a splatter approach on my end. So I started with Tuukka Raskinen because I thought, seems like a win, probably a low-scoring affair. I ended up with enough money for Connor McDavid in my second utility spot, so he made it into the lineup because, he's kind of been my good luck charm all year, so we'll see what happens. Other than that, I took a Boston Bruins approach. I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I'm gonna submit this, leave it. It cost me $1. I might do another entry that because I don't love it. I don't love it. But I got Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand. I got Mike Riley as my defenseman with Zdeno Chara. I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe we see like a big slap shot from him on a power play or something like that. He puts up a point, maybe even gets into a scrap. Maybe not likely in the playoffs. And then that leaves me with Jesse Puljujarvi, so that's a bad sign for that poor man. Kara from the Oilers as well. And then finally, Anthony Mantha. He's on the top line. He's looked pretty good in his debut so far, so we'll see if he continues. So
I had Mantha for a while, but I took him out. I don't know. Maybe that's a better thing that we both don't have the exact same rosters.
100%. So. Well, I was just thinking. I was like, I should probably should swerve here too. But I mean, again, maybe a foreshadowing on the Bruins. So we'll kind of roll with them, kind of see how they treat me in the first game, and then I can always hate them next week. So, or for the rest of my life, maybe. And I just don't know if Vancouver cares. Like, we kind of talked about the standings earlier on in the show. I just don't know, like, what is the benefit of Vancouver caring about any of these last couple games at this point, right? Like, are they not just putting in minimal effort, trying out AHL guys, kind of doing almost auditions for next year? Like, what is the purpose? What is the benefit of them winning any of their last 4 games?
If that sounds like a rhetorical question, but I'm going to answer it anyways, even though we already did. There is no benefit, so don't expect much. But I do think that, like, tonight is probably their last effort. Like, this is the last kick at the can where they actually, and it's just because it's Mikko Koskinen, where they actually put up a good offensive showing.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, in theory, yeah, you're right. They could win tonight. They would stay below Columbus for point totals, and then they could give up the next 3 to the Flames and actually propel the Flames over the Blackhawks, drop them down 2 spots in the draft. Like, suckers, we're still keeping our top 4 pick. And then we're going to lose the lottery, and we're going to end up 6th because the Kraken are going to win it. So that's a thing.
Yeah, you know what? That made me so excited. I was like, we are already at that point in our lives where we get to talk about the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah. Yeah. They signed their first ever player this week. I saw some tweet about that, and somebody, I think the response back was like, "Oh, you're a Kraken fan, eh? We'll name 2 players." I was like, classic.
That is good. So that wraps things up for my dirty fantasy. That leads us into Bettor Advice. And Mick, you have some exciting news to share with our listeners.
Oh, if you were following thus far and the last couple weeks, you watched me just battle, scrap, throw crap against the wall, trying to dig out of this hole that I dug for myself. And my very last attempt, we were talking, I could have done multiple overtime strategies. No, I stuck with it. I stayed with my guts. I lost a ton of money throughout the week, but I was like, no, those Islanders, they're going to beat those Devils at some damn point. I came back and I won. A plus 747 parlays for you dear listeners that were listening. So if you jumped on the Jets over, the Detroit over, Tampa over, as well as the Islanders last week, you were a winner just like me. I don't know what the spreadsheet looks like, but I think my terrible $600, $700, $800 hole probably looks respectable at this point for the regular season. So good job, me.
You're on the up and up, Mick. Like, man, kudos to you for a grind. That was like your performance last week was analogous to our entire approach, and that is you kept grinding, and you know what? You finished out on a high note. So I'm excited to hear what you like today.
I was also more excited, and I do want to just give a shout out, and I think I owe it to the man himself, Tim Streutzel, with his first ever career hat trick in the dying seconds of that Jets game. Man, they tried not to score that open net goal. Like they were trying their hardest. Dying seconds. I almost had that. Have you ever seen that bowling performance where the guy throws cashes in on a spare to win or something like that, and he freaks out? I was doing that in my living room where I was yelling that I'm number 1 and you're number 3, and do you like that? How do you like me now? Who's number 1? Because I am. If you haven't seen it, Google it. Weird celebration by bowling guy.
You know what? If our listeners haven't seen that, they probably shouldn't be listening. Yeah. I feel like that's the type of commitment we would expect from our listeners, to know those types of clips. All
right, so Bettor Advice this week. I didn't take any live games. These are all future bets because I was under the assumption that we were just doing kind of like a free futures week before we dive into it next week. I mean, it is limiting. There's games tomorrow that you can wager on, but I went into the futures market a little bit, so if that's not okay, well...
Of course it's okay. We got a very liberal okay policy on this podcast.
I was like, I'm pretty sure one year I won because you let me randomly bet on the Patriots and Packers or something. I went football and won $500, and then I was just like, yeah.
Yeah, for some reason I have Falcons in the back of my mind. I don't know if they were involved in one of the matchups. Maybe it was Green Bay Atlanta, but I know you're right. That did save you, but you got a puncher's chance in this one. You're back to life. How many picks do you have? Because I just full disclosure, I also three picks. That's great. I have some futures plays that I would also like to make, but my biggest play is going to come from an over in Edmonton. I'm going $50. Edmonton Oilers, Vancouver Canucks over 6.5. This line has shifted. I bet real money on this, and it was plus 104. It is now down to minus 102. I will take this at minus 102 just because it's fair. This is what's available now. That would be to win 49.02. Before I get to my futures plays, though, I want to hear what you got. Do you have any plays on the day, or are we just looking at futures on your schedule?
I do have one. We'll leave the futures one. So I've come up with a strategy. I'm going to take $50. So $50 is my bankroll, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 30% on the Bruins to win games 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to $15 approximately. So $15 Bruins to win game 1, $50 Bruins to win game 2, $50 to win game 3. That's going to be my standard bet. I'm going to keep $5 in my pocket just in case. Now, based on how I do after those games, so if the Bruins are up 3-0, I'm backing off. I'm taking my winnings. I've made a little bit of money. I've actually surpassed the minus 150 of the series. If they're down 0-3, I'm going to put $10 on the Bruins to win game 4, and then just basically ride out that for the rest of the season, or ride that out for the rest of the series. Sound complicated enough for you?
Yeah, my brain's hurting, and it's because I decided to change my strategies here at the last minute, but okay. I see where you're coming.
All right. Now, based on how I do after the first 3 games, I'm going to take my payroll. So essentially, if they're 1-2, I probably have about 50% of that. So I'm down to $25, $30. If they're 2-1, I'm potentially up just a slight bit. So I'm up to $52. And again, if they're 3-0, I'm just walking away from that. I'm then going to take that money and do the exact same things on games 4, 5, and 6. So I'm taking 30% of that wager and going, 30% and going on those next 3 games. So that is how complicated that's going to be. It's going to be like a formula where n minus 1 is number of games remaining in the series or something like that needed to advance. It's very complicated. I'll keep track of it and tell you how I do.
All right. I'm going to take a more straightforward approach. I have the Florida Panthers to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning for $20. I originally had it for $25, but I changed something at the last minute. Then I'm also taking a stance on the Canadians. Like I said, $240 is too good to pass up. $20 on that. That leaves me with $10. It's Saturday, Mick.
Ooh, yeah, that's not bad.
So with that in mind, I am taking the Boston Bruins at Washington Capitals. 60-minute tie line at plus 290.
Sweet. Oh, we get overtime. As much overtime as we want.
Yeah, indefinite overtime.
Wow. Continuous overtime. What? It's not just going to be 3 guys on the ice for 5 minutes and then a shootout.
This is when, this is the difference between NHL and other playoffs, is that overtime games, you fan yourself off, Mick, because this is the type of entertainment that makes the NHL playoffs the absolute best. Yeah. We could potentially get 3 games in 1 game. It's not uncommon in the NHL playoffs.
No,
we get 9 periods of hockey.
100%. It happens all the time, and these matchups are so close. I love it. Other 2 plays, now that I've got this super complicated Boston Bruins, and essentially what I'm trying to do is make a series bet more fun. So I'm going to do all this work on the back end to essentially, if the Bruins lose, I'm out money, right? That's kind of what I'm basing this on. So I'm basing this on the Bruins winning, but I'm going to have more fun than just taking up series price straight up. But series prices do have some merit because sometimes you want to parlay them together. Like if I took the Vegas Golden Knights, and I took the Edmonton Oilers, and I took the Carolina Hurricanes, and parlayed all 3 of those teams together, would give me plus 200. It's not terrible, 2-1. I'll take that. I like all those favorites as we talked about. I think they're playing the inferior competition. Another $25 to try and double up a little bit. And then I got my lowly Leafs, 6 games at 7/2 were the odds. I don't know what that equates to, but for $25, it's like $87 or something like that. So like 3.5 to 1.
Did you hear my words of wisdom, or did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze.
Damn it. I said 7/2 is plus 350. Fractions suck. Podcast listeners are the lucky ones who will actually get to hear that information twice. If you're tuning in on YouTube, guess what? I just bestowed upon you some fractional knowledge.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Hey, you got it eventually. So there you go. So that kind of wraps up our show. That shows you what we're doing. I know the rest of my day is going to consist of going to a lumber store and building an outside TV stand so that I can sit and watch playoff games tonight. Might even get some hot dogs for dinner. Sounds like a fun time.
Damn. Yeah. Oh, man. No. Hot dogs and outdoor hockey, Mick? Damn. You've inspired me. Hot dogs are definitely on my list. I think maybe I'm going to try the same approach as you, and that is I need to find a way to watch hockey outside.
Oh, the invite's your, like, if you want to come over and watch this game, like, the invite is out there. So now, again, it could be tonight, but if you're like, I don't know, tomorrow we've got a full slate of games starting at 10 a.m. So any of those games that interest you tomorrow, I'm more than welcome to, like, have some snacks, have some beers, watch a little hockey tomorrow as well. So.
All right, I will put that in my back pocket. Playoff watching is definitely in our future in your backyard. Maybe even one of these days when we can see each other, we can actually even do a live podcast again, because that would be fun. But before we make all our future plans, we have to live in the moment, Mick. We have to live today as the best day possible, and that includes involving the Babe of the Week in all your future plans. So, this week's Babe of the Week, Eliza Becker. E-R. I think that Eliza Becker speaks for herself. And I can't speak for how many hundreds of thousands of followers. 330,000 of followers does not do her justice. She deserves all the attention. Eliza Becker is our Babe of the Week.
Schwing. And I found her this time, so that's exciting. So first one I clicked on, there was no posts yet, and I was like, oh, this is like a future prediction. You know, like, this girl, her little profile picture looks so hot, I guarantee top quality content. So
really, really investing there. Like,
yeah, this really was a futures podcast. Like, you did not know how deep this was going to be. So cool. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. Oh, we have continuous potential overtime coming to us. We got a full slate of games tomorrow that's capped off by the Oilers or the Canucks and the Flames. That sounds odd.
Well, my sincerest hope is that we get enough overtime hockey that it overlaps the Canucks and Flames, so we don't even feel like we're tricked into watching it. So
just looking at kind of like who's here, I know you the viewers can't because the screen's just cut off, but it's Sportsnet, and then the Flames and Canucks are on Sportsnet 1. So I'm curious as to what is on regular Sportsnet tomorrow night that's more important than, like, a hockey game. Like, is it just the Jays? Like, the end of the Jays Braves series or whatever, I guess, that's going on? Oh, no. Whoever they're playing next.
I don't know off the top of my head who they're playing, but the only thing I can think of is, like, Sunday night baseball, maybe? But that should still probably overlap. Like,
yeah. Like, it just seems strange that they would get kicked off the main networks for something else. So I'm curious to see what's our primetime Sportsnet viewing experience on Sunday night. We could look it up, but, well, it's better to speculate.
I hope you like dog shows, Mick.
Ooh, dog shows. Yeah. No, it's because it's not horse racing. Horse racing's today.
Preakness is absolutely today, yep.
Weird. Anyways, so there you go. So enjoy your weekend of hockey. We will check back with you kind of next week. We'll have an idea of kind of what each series is. We can kind of do a recap. Sounds like a fun time. So
nothing but good times moving forward. We're riding this all the way to the postseason or the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, sweet yo. So enjoy the rest of your week. Hopefully you enjoyed the season. Beep, beep, beep. Bye, guys.
See you next week.